Hey Dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be checking out Chip in Arena. So I've got him to level 44 from the live stream yesterday. If you haven't watched that, you can check it out. Check my gacha results. Okay, anyway, we are going to look at his equipment that I've chosen to give him. So there was a lot of twists and turns during the live stream, but ultimately we settled with double crit for him, okay, to increase his debuff cast rate because sometimes he may not land his statuses. Double HP for more bulk, and for his accessory I've given him Guardian Ring for more protection with Hyde and debuff cleansing, okay, every 3 turns, so that he will be able to move constantly and also cast the skills that he needs to cast. For his jewels, I've given him Survive with 1 HP with Defense, Myth Substat, increased skill use chance, as well as increased crit and lethal rate, so that he's able to do more damage if the crit and lethal damage happens. For his traits, I've given him Silence Resist, Paralyze Resist, as well as Sleep Resist. The reason why I've given him Paralyze Resist is because I'm going to be testing him on teams without Cult. Okay, so that's something that you will also need to take note. If you're not going to use Cult, then you have to use Paralyze Resist. So the first team I'll be testing is probably the better team. Okay, the one with Ante in the offensive team. We are kind of using 3 Hyde Reapers, okay, 4 Primes, and 1 Dylan. Dylan is unfortunately the weakest link in this team because he doesn't really do much, even when he counters, because sometimes his counter doesn't happen because that is being nerfed by Ante, right? So thankfully my Ante here cleanses. Now it's very important that you do have a cleanser, okay, because you will want 5 to survive. If you don't cleanse the buff block, 5 will not survive if she gets hit in the first, within the first 4 to 5 turns. And especially now when you're facing so many Rudies on the field, they will reduce your Guardian Ring very quickly, and she will be hit within, turn 3 or something like that. So if you don't have the cleanser, she cannot survive on 1 HP and get into immortal form, and that's not very good for you. So okay, back to Chip. So Chip's passive is very good. Okay, he is able to provide reflect immunity for your entire team, so you don't have to worry at all when you're going up against other Rudies. He also deals more damage to universal enemies when you unlock his exclusive item. So that's gonna cover the other part that Jack doesn't cover, because Jack does more damage to offensive and magic enemies. Not only that, Chip also prevents revival if you have 3 or more offensive allies on the field. So in this case, he will be preventing Ante and Eileen from reviving, which is very important because a lot of times, Ante is very cancerous and toxic to face up against. Literally, when she revives, she's like a whole new unit coming into play. So you technically have 6 units in the team, right? So this is to check against that, and I think it's a little bit more balanced with Chip on the field. But sometimes, as we see later, he may not, be he may not completely be the best check against Ante. So over here, he uses his top skill, which casts Isolation and Poison together. Isolation is only available at level 44, and this I think is a very smart design, which I will talk about later. Here he didn't receive any damage, which is great, so he didn't die. And he uses his Awaken skill. His Awaken skill also has pre-apply of burn, so you saw that it dealt quite a bit of damage to the enemy and also magnifies it immediately, so that's 40% of the enemy's max HP down. Thankfully the Cult used her skill, so that she was on isolation, so no damage was done to me as well. And over here you will see that I'm really clutching this battle with Chip and Ante together, thanks to the skill nullification as well. Chip's damage is somewhat decent, okay, somewhat decent. If he doesn't use, I can't remember which skill does the ignore defense, but so far I've seen he isn't really so much of a DPS character, he's more of a support character. So your main DPS should technically still be Fi, who is going to do more damage through her Agnes Flame on top of her damage as well, okay? So over here we're facing a universal team. I'm going to try to show you a variety of teams that this team goes up against so that you have a better idea of how it can perform. Although, of course, it really depends on the enemy. Sometimes, it may be just coincidental that I do better against this universal team, but I may lose to other universal teams, and of course there's a lot of RNG involved as well, which is why I want to bring it back to Chip's check against Ante. Now sometimes you will see that Ante dies very quickly thanks to my Agnes Flame and whatsoever other attacks. That's good, and she doesn't come back, which is great. But sometimes Chip himself gets killed earlier, right? So that is where the variation and probability is going to affect your match. So it's not always 100% like, oh, Ante is dead because we have a new unit that prevents revival. Like, that is extremely not the case because Ante charges her weaken skill very quickly. Oh, and you saw just now the Abel countered me and he died. That's what I wanted to say about Chip's top skill. So I think it was designed really well because when you learn isolation and poison together, I think this is similar to Eve's attack. When the enemy counters, they don't do any damage to you, and they also, if they're not resistant against poison, they will die to the poison or get damaged by the poison when they counter you. So I think this was a very nice touch, especially his top skill, which I love so much. So if he uses his top skill, if you use him, then I think it's a good thing because the isolation really helps. As you can see here, even Antes are so hard to bring down, and at this point, I think my Chip is more frail than her because she's receiving all the buffs from Rudy. So thankfully though, I could still kill her with Dylan's, but imagine I didn't have Dylan's, she's continuously blocking my attack and she's still hitting me very hard, then we're gonna have a problem there. So far Chip has been looking great. Okay, he is definitely a good unit, not gonna lie. He is not like a bad unit, but he's not exactly like a top tier, crazily broken unit, as what another player, Ja, has also said. And somehow he just screws up my entire Jack's skill use priority. My Jack has been using the bottom skill so much that it's just wrong. Yeah. Here we're facing a magic team with Rin, and yesterday on the live stream we were facing quite a number of Rin teams and we were continuously getting destroyed, and Rin is really a huge check to the offensive team due to her incapacitation passive. So hopefully if you face a Rin team, you can bring her down very quickly so that you won't die too fast. Unfortunately, this enemy, he actually has Eve on Willful Ring, so Eve is getting damaged quite a bit, and unfortunately it's gonna die very soon. But of course our main target is Ante. We really want to see Ante dead, because once Ante is dead and she doesn't come back, that is the whole point of Chip right there. It's kind of like who uses skill nullification first or earlier, because as you can see, it always happens like that. Every time I manage to bring down an Ante almost to 0, like she survives on 1 HP and she will have her awakened skill ready, which is so annoying because I won't be able to land the next hit in and she's already gonna die, and she won't come back. That's why I'm like, just die. The worst part is if she heals via the HP armor, that's gonna be worse. So unfortunately here you see my Chip actually died before the Ante, which is why I said it's always so close. And yeah, there's the revival. So honestly, pretty annoying. We could have just ended the battle much faster. And she uses skill nullification again, so you can see what I mean by having Chip around may not always work, because it really depends on RNG. If the Ante is just continuously shielding you, or with the enemy's Rudy in place, that's gonna be pretty tricky to deal with. So this is the second team. I'm replacing Ante with Colt. Ironically, unfortunately, that when I was recording the video, the runs were not too good. But yesterday on the stream, using this team was actually pretty decent. So I don't really know what happened. Maybe it's not as consistent as I thought. Yeah, so that's one factor to consider. The reason why I'm using Cult is of course she is the cleanser as well, and you can also get physical attack increase with her. So that means your Agnes Flame will do more damage, and overall your entire team will do more damage, and hopefully that will help you as well. But as you can see right now with if you do the additional polishing, you know, and you have stamps, your Agnes Flame can actually reach a crazy amounts of damage, right? Even without Cult, you saw previously in the previous video, I think I was hitting about 30,000 to 32,000 Agnes Flame damage, which is pretty average right now, I think, for most people in the top tier, because I've seen insane amounts of Agnes Flame damage before. So I think 32k is kind of okay. Okay. So with Cult, I do hit up to 34k if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Again, you can see that the Ante is already... I think the Ante has already used 2 of her skill notifications within 6 turns. Yeah, so you can see that sometimes she doesn't die too fast. She's not killable. She doesn't die too easily. So even with Chip, right, and her revive, his revive prevention, she may be able to sneak in both her awakened skills if she does have the reset awakened skill accessory or stamps, and you know, get her job done. And having her revive is just additional annoyance. So as you can see, my heroes are not hitting her, which is very annoying. Yeah, she doesn't take too much damage from Chip either. Yeah, in fact, I think my Chip may die earlier than her, which is not a good thing. She survives on 1 HP now. Okay, this is the very important moment that she has to die before my Chip. Okay, she died before my Chip. Otherwise, she will revive, and I think I may actually just lose this entire match. This was quite nerve-wracking because, I mean, who knows, this Judas could just solo me entirely. Thankfully, my Cult still survived. Okay, this match, very coincidentally, we face the Chip team, okay, Chip RADGRID team, which I will also talk about after this. And you will see, you know, in comparison how this person fares. Now look at this person's Agnes Flame. 40,000 Agnes Flame damage. This is no joke, guys. This is really no joke. So with 40,000 Agnes Flame within 2 hits, I could be easily dead. And with Chip here trying to burn me up, you know, I'm quite in danger. So this match was pretty eye-opening to see how much Fi can do, and as well as, you know, see enemies Chip in action as well. Unfortunately, I just can't kill him fast enough. And he also does have a RADGRID, so sometimes my damage may become nothing because of his RADGRID, because of the isolation. And his Dylan's is pretty active as well, so very unfortunate here. I got completely destroyed. Yeah, so following that, I decided that, okay, I'm gonna try the team out, right? I'm gonna try the RADGRID team out. It turns out that overall, the RADGRID team actually performed slightly better than a Cult team during my recording, okay? So, I think I can say that for all 3 teams, they do have their pros and cons. The con about this team is that it doesn't have any clans at all. Right, so if your Fi just so happens to get hit all the way before turn 6 or turn 5, then I think it's very unfortunate because she will die. She will still have the buff block on her, so she cannot break into immortality and she will die. Yeah, so that is the bad thing about this team. But somehow, you know, the other guy managed to pull it off very well, especially with such a powerful Agnes Flame. Of course, again, it depends on RNG because his Fi actually went first, right? And he did land AoEs after that. So, yeah, it was very much in his favor right there. If I could also land AoEs like here, you know, against this magic team, my Agnes Flame landed very early and I could do damage back to him, then that's gonna be good, right? I think the team with Ante was the only team that, you know, wasn't so reliant on Phi, because you could adopt a more, I mean, RNG could swing you into a more defensive kind of approach with the skill nullification, or, you know, just let you go all the way in terms of offense. But in the Cult and RADGRID teams, you are pretty much relying on damage, because there's no other defensive mechanism in place for you, right? And you are really just trying to buff your damage, especially Phi's Agnes Flame, to the maximum possible in order to bring the enemy down. So if the RNG doesn't go that way, then you may be in trouble. Yeah, so these are things that you will want to consider. Thankfully here though, in this universal team, my Chip, oh, is it magic team? I think my Chip managed to pull through and kill the Ante before she actually revived, so that's great. This is up there against a universal team. One thing that I have yet to truly observe is that Chip is able to do more damage to universal enemies, but the thing is, right now universal enemies, they kind of have a lot of bulk, right? And Chip's damage is not that high from what I've seen. So I can't really tell that he's doing more damage to universal enemies, and if he is, it is not exactly that significant. And you see here, the Ante is about to die, but she just had to, you know, well, thankfully she didn't cast skill nullification because she didn't cleanse, so amazing, right? The whole universal team died and Ante is still around. You see why we really need Chip, a hero like Chip in the game now. We really need someone to prevent revive. Imagine her revive is not proc yet. She'll come back and it will just drag on for a long time. So this is a bonus match I had to put in. We are fighting against Death Team! But I think this Death user, this player, he may have geared his Death Team a little too weakly, because I realized I think he's using Willful Rings instead of Guardian Rings. If he was using Guardian Rings, I could have been dead. I could have been countered easily, and yeah, maybe I'll be dead. And he doesn't really have Hyde as well. Maybe Death Teams don't use Hyde, but yeah, so I just had to put it here. I'm so sorry. It was a cheap thrill. So one thing here, it's also nice to see Eileen not reviving, so the battle just, you know, was super short. So let me know what you guys think after watching Chip in battle. He's definitely a very good unit that I think will give more variety to the offensive team, and that said, the offensive team is still pretty strong on their own right, okay? So big shout out to my channel members, ZMD, Phoenix and Yamaki for the support. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!